Welcome to JWL Sports, where I review all the best sports takes from around the country. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do not forget to subscribe. We are building an amazing community here, and it's turning into something really, really special. And I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I truly see this channel just as much as yours as it is mine. And I really want to build something that we can all be proud to be part of. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We're talking about the Cowboys and do they need this 2 seed, and is it kind of Super Bowl or bust? Now recently I've had a couple takes about the Cowboys that Cowboys fans are very upset about. I make no secret about it. I am indeed an Eagles fan. I am born and raised from Philadelphia. But I also really like to emphasize that I am not the delusional Nick Wright Chiefs fan where I just say everything is hunky-dory, no one can beat the Chiefs, yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. I pride myself in giving unbiased information and feed and takes. That is what I truly believe. If the Eagles are not playing well, I say they're not playing well. If the Eagles are doing terrible, I say they're doing terrible. If the Eagles, can win and they're going to win, it's because I really believe it, not because I'm just being a dumb, blind fan. So naturally, the Cowboys, it always takes a lot of energy to be like, okay, I have a YouTube channel. I'm giving public opinions. Let me really make sure that I look at this not through the lens of a fan, but I do so unbiasedly, which Nick Wright does not do when evaluating the Bills, as we see all the time, or even the Cincinnati Bengals, really anyone that could possibly threaten Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Nick Wright just says, oh, they're this, they're that, they're bad, they're this, they're that, I do not do that with the Dallas Cowboys, okay? I think Dak Prescott is a pretty good quarterback. I do not think Dak Prescott is an elite quarterback, okay? People are going to get angry at me for saying that. He is not elite. And listen, as an Eagles fan, I'm pretty happy that Dak will hopefully get record-setting money, max contract. Yes, get that money because that means your roster won't be as good. So I'm very pleased with that. But let me just, all jokes aside, hopefully if you're still following me, I will say that the Cowboys, of course, are playing for Super Bowl hopes. I guess Micah Parsons, is the one who was quoted saying that. And the thing is this: do they need the 2 seed? Yes, I truly believe that they need the 2 seed because not only do they play terrible on the road, and I don't think it's such this, this binary thing where it's like they can only play good at home and they can't play good on the road. What it is that when you play on the road, it highlights your defects, the things that you're not good at, because they're harder to hide than when you're at home, when you have your home crowd. There's technically less adversity. It's just a little bit of a different, feeling. And also, I can't speak for the Cowboys. I don't know how connected their locker room is, because sometimes when you have a disconnected locker room, traveling and not performing well on the road is a lot of times a highlight of that you're not an intimate, close, connected, locker room, which again, I'm not saying that is what's happening with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys actually, from an analyst standpoint, are fascinating this year because they have a decent record. They've won some big games. They're potentially going to be the 2 seed, but I really do not think they're a great team. And I got in trouble before. Someone called me out in the comments, and thank you for that. They were saying that I said that they were a bad team because I said that they're not good. And I didn't mean that. I meant to say that they're not great. And I do, again, Eagles fan aside and all of that. So please save your critiques of saying, oh, I'm just an Eagles fan, because that's not what this is. Because I'm not saying that the Eagles are great, okay? I'm not saying the Eagles are great and the Cowboys aren't, okay? That's not what this video is about. What I'm saying is that the Cowboys, they're not an elite team. They're definitely not elite, and I don't think they're great. Them getting this 2 seed is more about the Eagles dropping the ball in the last, 4 or 5 weeks, right? Or losing that game against the Jets early on. That's really what that is about. I mean, you have to be honest about that. the Cowboys getting the 2 seed isn't about them marching into the season and saying, this is our year. We're the number 2 seed, or we're maybe even the 1 seed, depending on how the 49ers play. That's not what that was about. It really isn't. The Eagles kind of had that the whole time. The Eagles just had to win one more game, and then it would have been game, set, match, and they couldn't do it. And so that's truly the way I look at it. It's way more about that. And not to mention, and again, you Cowboys fans are so sensitive about this, technically, you lost that game against Detroit, okay? You got bailed out by a terrible call. And you guys like to call about the tripping and this and that. You can't do that. It's a different blown call that the refs did for the 2-point conversion than maybe just like another missed call within the game. Because there's missed calls throughout games all the time. You just don't always see them on TV. It's very difficult, but sometimes these things balance out. The things that happened on the 2-point conversion was just nonsense and bonkers, right? Like that's just like blatantly just so bad, so awful. And not to mention, if you want to say, well, whatever, it evens out, that's fine. I'll even accept that. But then again, that's also then more about Detroit losing that game, because after that 2-point conversion, what didn't go through, then the Detroit should have just kicked a field goal. Then you're going to overtime. Then who knows? So you have to admit you were given a gift. You were given a gift of having the Eagles lose and that Detroit game. You have to see that. You have to see the reality to be able to evaluate your team accurately. So in order for them to make the Super Bowl, I think they absolutely need to have the 2 seed. And even if they do have the 2 seed, they have to pray to every god under the sun. Okay? You have to pray, you have to take every religion you can and pray all over the place, because you're not going to beat the 49ers. You're just not going to beat the 49ers. So, and you know what? I honestly don't even know if you're going to make the NFC Championship game. Before I make any type of those predictions, I want to wait and see what team, where everyone kind of lays out. But let's get into this clip.
Can the Cowboys reach the Super Bowl if they are not the 2 seed? Micah says they're going to be, because he is locked in.
Well, Micah should be, and they better get the number 2 seed if they want a legit chance. No. Does the regular season matter?
Yes.
Is the regular season any indicator of how good the team is?
Of course.
If it is, then no chance. They're 3-5 on the road, and now I'm supposed to believe they're going to go on the road and beat 3 good teams to get to the Super Bowl? They haven't beaten a good team on the road yet. These are the teams they've beaten on the road: the Giants, the Chargers, and the Panthers. None of them are going to be in the playoffs, all right, or the likes of them. All right, so no, they have no chance, Coach, if they don't get the number 2 seed. So I think they'll come in, take care of business, because they better if they want to get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And those road losses, 2 of those road losses were blowouts, right? The Buffalo and the San Francisco road loss. Another one was a huge disappointment with the Arizona road loss. They had 2 close ones. They've been outscored like 151-79 on the road. Dak, I think, is 7 touchdowns and 5 interceptions on the road. And it's strange, because there's some seasons where you're just really good at home and you're poor on the road, or vice versa. And this is one of those seasons. And you look back at like the 2007 Giants, that Giants team was poor at home. They were 3-5. They were 7-1 on the road. They went on the road, were road warriors, and it actually played in to their strengths, and were able to win the Super Bowl. And you wish as a coach you could explain why you're so good on the road or why you're so good at home, and you try all different things, but sometimes that's who you are. And this is who this Cowboys team is.
And they were last year. I mean, they were 500, but still.
But yeah, so they've actually gotten worse on the road. So if that's the path they have to go, then it's going to probably be a very short path.
Wilds, a few quick questions.
Mr. Consistent. Well, so the other thing that I want to point out, for all of you that say, what I said at the top was wrong, or what Bruce saying, or what Coach is saying is wrong, I just realized that this quote from Micah is saying that the Cowboys are playing for Super Bowl hopes against the Washington Commanders. So that means that's what he believes. He believes that they need to have the 2 seed to win, that they can't play on the road. If he is saying that, he is in the locker room, He is the NFL athlete. He is the elite NFL athlete. He is the one that's on the Cowboys. He's the one that's been playing football since he was, probably like 2 years old, okay? So I think he knows better than me and anyone else, honestly, okay? And anyone else that's going to be watching this video. Unless, I don't know, maybe Tom Brady's watching this video. If you are, Tom, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks, man. But so if Micah's saying that, well, then you have to believe in him. Sometimes you can question an athlete when they're saying something blatantly positive, and you can be like, well, does he really believe that? Is he just trying to psych himself up? Is he trying to be confident? Is he trying to be this and that? But when he's admitting kind of like a flaw or an issue, you can really take that to the bank. Because think of how Micah easily could have been like, yeah, we want this 2 seed, but we are confident in our team, and no matter what, we believe, that we can, get to the Super Bowl. It's not what he's saying. So that to me speaks volumes.
That is correct. That is what they call me.
Be less humble.
Just wait. Let me ask the questions. That was last year's New Year's resolution, but I'm thinking about running it back for this year. It worked so well. What was my Super Bowl pick before the year?
It was Cowboys, Chiefs.
Cowboys in the
Chiefs,
NFC.
obviously, another parade.
There you
I
go.
also had the Chiefs for the record.
Unlike Brew, who has been losing toes, have been flirting with the team from the,
Just
Northern
'cause you
California.
ask me every show, I'm not
have
flirting.
I ever once wavered on the Cowboys? Yes, dude. Exactly right. What's the question here?
No, I got to do a lot of work.
Well, yeah, I understand. What's the question?
Dallas need the 2 seed to reach the Super Bowl.
Absolutely, unequivocally, yes.
Oh, see, this is a little
And it is not because they would have been drawing dead as the 5 seed. Had Philly taken care of business against Arizona and Dallas would have just been, almost resigned to getting the 5, I still think they could have gotten there. Because I don't buy into the road stuff the way you guys do. They're going to end the year 4-5 on the road. You're right, they have 2 blowout losses. They also have the second most blowout road wins of any team in football. We can show it to you. Brew,
the Giants and the Panthers.
Brew,
Okay,
that's
congratulations.
fine, but to act like they're the only team that's played bad teams throughout the year, just for a moment, just let me explain this for a second. The idea.
That's so ridiculous and so dumb and cooking the books. No one celebrates blowing out the Giants and the Panthers. It's a waste of time and energy. I mean, it is. It's just stupid analysis. It just is. It just is.
Idea that I don't think they are just drawing dead on the road, but I do think they are dead. I will change my Super Bowl pick. I will abandon it if they're not the 2 seed because it will mean they lost to Washington.
On Monday,
And
there's a chance you're changing your Super Bowl
If the
pick.
Cowboys lose to Washington in a game that is the most important game they've played since the playoff game last year, and Brew just said rack that like he's Jim Rome in 1997. Yes, then I'm out on it. Washington has been, for 4 months, the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Washington is starting their worst of the 2 quarterback options. Washington is awful, and the Cowboys have to have the game. I look at this game as important as almost any game happening this weekend outside of Miami, Buffalo. Or I guess also in Houston, which is a playoff game.
Unfortunately, Nick, just like you know all those statistics, every player in that locker room knows those statistics.
Yeah, but some.
Everybody they talk to knows those statistics. So I hear what Mike is saying about how dialed in he is.
Mike has handled that correctly.
He
properly,
absolutely.
Right?
But is that the reality? Is that the reality? Because there's so many cautionary tales. I shared the one yesterday that led to New England's demise. That happens so often, where as much as everybody says, hey, I'm going to take this seriously, you go out and suddenly they're hanging around in the fourth quarter and bad things happen.
Can I give a counterpoint to that real quick? I don't think it actually happens that often. I just think we only remember the times it happens. The time that the huge favorite that everyone thinks is going to win wins, we don't remember it at all. So it stands out in our memory the times New England gets bitten, or if the Cowboys were to lose this game, we'll remember it. But it's not like it happens often. 14-point underdogs rarely win. No matter what week on the calendar it is, it happens once or twice an NFL season.
But it shouldn't happen. That's what he's saying. It's like,
shouldn't
March
happen
Madness, it's like a 250.
If it happens once or twice a season, that's pretty regular. not pretty regular. By definition, it is regular. If something happens every single season, like, what are we talking about here? So it is absolutely a possibility. So his argument makes no sense. I mean, seriously, I understand it doesn't happen every single week, and if it doesn't happen all the, every single time, obviously, I get that. That makes, obviously. But it clearly does happen. So it's clearly within the realm of a possibility, especially when you're talking about division rivals, especially when you're talking about a team having the chance to play spoiler, okay? And it's the Dallas Cowboys, which this has been part of the Dallas Cowboys DNA, and this has been part of Dak's DNA. Now, I'm not going to say who I think is going to win or lose that game. I'm going to save that maybe for tomorrow, or I might not share it at all.
15, like, oh my God, it happened. Of course, we're not talking about every time.
Yeah, and it shouldn't happen the last game of the season.
And it's not
There's
going
so
to.
much on the line.
Right.
Yeah, but unfortunately, human nature will sometimes take over.
It would mean a little something.
Would you tomato can the Commanders again?
He already did.
They're tomato cans.
They're
We know
certified.
that. Yeah, they're very certified.
All right, well, now they're going into would the Cowboys blowout win prove anything? I don't think we have to watch the rest of that clip because the answer is no. What the heck would that prove? The Commanders are awful this year. I mean, they're just terrible. So there was the whole thing that they can win on the road and they can do a blowout on the road. Congratulations. The Commanders are just as good as the Giants and the Panthers who they already blew out. So that shows you nothing about anything, especially because a blowout could also mean that the Commanders are just phoning it in because it's the end of the season. No player wants to get injured. They know they're done. And again, you have to look at their contracts. Are their contracts locked and loaded? Are they set up? How many players are fighting to be in the league next year? How many players are fighting for money next year? I have no idea. I'm not doing that type of deep dive into it. If you guys do, please let me know in the comments below. But for all I know, the Commanders are just like, man, I don't care. In which I wouldn't necessarily blame them, because it's like, who the heck wants to get injured or banged up the end of the season? Because if you're an NFL athlete and you're not making the playoffs and you're done, you want to be healthy for the off season. You want to be happy. You want to be pain free. You want to be hanging out with your family, your girl, your children. You want to travel. You want to just do whatever you can do, just being young and wealthy and living that life. So I wouldn't necessarily blame them for that. But again, I don't know the circumstances of this. I do know that typically you want to be a spoiler and you definitely don't want the Cowboys to like roll you at home and, give them the 2 seed. So the Commanders do have an incentive at that point. But the Commanders are in this like weird situation where if they beat the Cowboys, then they're potentially helping out another division team, the Eagles. So I just don't know the mentality that a Washington Commander is going in to this game with. I think, I don't know. I think it's actually a fascinating like psychological thing. It's like, it's obvious if you're trying to stay in the league, you're going to do everything you can. Or if you're trying to get more money, you're going to do everything you can. But if you already got your contract, you already got your money, or you're already just like a name, or maybe you don't have that contract yet, but like, you're getting signed regardless of this game. Like even the coach is like being like, hey man, give it like 80% today, because like you're good, like that's can happen. So, and the Cowboys are going to be going out as hard as they can because the Cowboys won it. So it's going to be a very interesting game. I hope this game ends up being a little bit more competitive than one would think. I hope it's not just a blowout. Either way, right? I mean, even if the Commanders just blow out the Cowboys, which I don't think is going to happen, like, I think this has the potential just to kind of like extend the playoffs, kind of, right? It kind of gives us like the final game of the season can sometimes be like an extra week of playoffs. And that's kind of what we're getting here. The only problem is sometimes it's with teams that are terrible. So I think this is an interesting game, right? Because it is. The spread is 13.5. Which obviously is massive, that is like kind of college numbers. But hey, let's see what happens. But I would love to know your thoughts on this one. Do you think the Cowboys need the number 2 seed? Do you think they're absolutely going to beat the Commanders? And do you think that if they blow out the Commanders, it would mean anything for the Cowboys? Please let me know in the comments below. I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts. Again, I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing ever, let me know. If you think what I'm saying is awesome, then also let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's have some fun, and ultimately, let's just build something special. I truly believe we are building an awesome community here, and it's really turning into something special. So please do subscribe. I want to build something that we can all be proud of, and I truly see this channel just as much as yours as it is mine. Thank you so much, and